So welcome back to another weekly episode of the saga known as This Darn Car, the WideFox. So after last week, the ECU turned on and was that close to getting it to go. So I wasn't sure if I had a bad TFI module or not, or I guess you just call it an ignition module. I didn't know if the ignition module was bad or good. So I started doing a lot of homework trying to go through my Chilton manual to understand more or less the input and output signals I needed. I knew I had a switched wire going to the TFI, which going to the ECU and everything else. What I ended up finding out is that the wire that I knew was switched from the ignition down, that did not stay on when I went to start the car. So, starter would work, ECU turned off. Now, just going back through a couple other things, what I figured out is that the ECU is now stay on, and I've kind of done a little bit of rewiring as I've learned how to diagnose this a little bit more. All the input signals went into the ignition coil, into the ignition module. They all started talking together. My reluctor wheel inside the distributor actually wasn't sending a square wave, which is basically like a light switch, an on, off, telling the distributor telling the ECU, fire the coil. Long story short, I just had a breakthrough. Ladies and gentlemen, the WideFox lives. So now you notice I told you before it doesn't have any mufflers on, so it's a little rough. It's got the exhaust or the headers out to the H-pipe and it starts doing this funky chicken fuel thing, so I've got to figure that out. The tach works and I've got some other wires to do, but ladies and gentlemen, the WideFox kind of lives. So now that the WideFox lives, now it's time to really button up the last bit of things. Bleed the brake system, get that all going. Put a shifter in it. I need to get all the wires kind of buttoned back up. I stripped off a lot of the tape and everything else, just trying to chase wires just to understand how all this stuff should function and should talk to each other. And thankfully you hear everything's talking. So now I need to top off the fluids, do all that kind of stuff, and really get this thing ready to go out there and make some noise. So now that it's getting to go, a couple things I need to work on is obviously get the car registered. So I'll get down and get registration plates. I had plates on it. I never did it 2 years ago because I knew I was going to build it. I need to get that done. And the second thing is I need to get all of the receipts I've got piled over here on my desk and get an approximate value of this car so I can get insurance and make sure it's insured for the proper value of what's into it and what the loss would be. I've already learned once, document, and be prepared to lose it all and get your money back. So once I got everything buttoned up, that's going to be the next couple days is getting everything done. Now we have picked the color for the WideFox long-term for the wrap. Thank you guys for the input that you guys have put in either on Facebook, Instagram, or even on the comments. I appreciate that stuff. Some of you guys are going to say, hey, I picked the right color. Some of you guys are going to go, man, you didn't pick my color. You should have picked it. Who knows what it's going to be long-term. It's going to go to an initial color. Who knows? A year from now, 2 years from now, I may decide it needs to go to a different color or to a different design. And with that, knowing what color it's going to be, I sent out last night, I think, 5 proposals out to some companies to see if they want to work together on the wrap piece of it. Knowing what I need, I basically just threw out what I can do for them. And that way you'll see, you may see a sponsor show up for the wrap. You may not, and I'll just pay out of my pocket. Like I said, I'm not chasing sponsors, but I'll definitely shoot you an email and say, hey, you want to work together? If it's a no, okay, I move on. So you can imagine Sunday starting the car was awesome. But being that close, you couldn't stop the momentum going on. So if you look behind the list now, the list, other than about 2 things, is done. Let me catch you up on how I've done the rest of the week from Sunday, because today is Friday, and tomorrow you're going to watch this. So you can see I've got all the wiring in the inside buttoned up. Now it's not exactly perfect, because I really just want it want it safe but exposed, so that if there's an issue or anything else, something turns up not working, I can immediately go in, fix it and that, because integrating the harnesses itself, sometimes there's a couple things that weren't done that are cobbled up in the 80 harness that I want to go in and fix later on. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to cover it all up, make it look really nice when I have to go cut it back open and fix some stuff still. But this is at least good enough that I can drive around a little bit. My wife does not really want to ride in this car. So anybody that does ride in the car, well, watch your feet. You got wires in the way. So you can also see behind that I do have seats in there. The 5.0 shifter from the 92 bolts right in, obviously. And I've got it sealed up with some boom mat. The seats themselves, these are a set of 2-year-old, brand new SVE S1s that I've had in the garage, undercover, under wraps for 2 years. If you remember back on the Rec 92, I had a set of the S2s, which is, they're a little bit different, kind of more of the headrest than that. They're 2, kind of like 2 openings versus the 1. Well, the S1s have 1 opening. They're a simple, basic race seat that I ended up getting when I wrecked the 92. I ended up getting these and just set them aside, knowing that they would bolt into here. So, cut the bracket off. They're still under wraps. I will get them out only when it's time to go. So as the rest of the car on the interior is done, I vacuumed it out before I put the seats in. The ECM fits, and I tell you, it feels very good knowing that everything is in and it all fits the way I planned it to, which, you know, sometimes your plans don't work right. But everything fits, all the ECM goes in, the seats, the shifter, and it feels pretty darn good to fit. Let me show you the gauges, kind of what we got going on with those. All right, so on the factory gauges, the alternator there is actually an ammeter, which means it measures draw more than the voltage of the car. So when I turn the car on, it really stays, no matter what, stays kind of in the alt there in the center. What that means is that the D is more draw, C is charge. So if you turn on your lights and everything else, you take a big draw on it, you will see it dip towards the D. If it is charging, like it's really pushing a lot of amps and voltage to the car from the alternator, you'll see it go to the C. Otherwise, if everything's in good shape, it'll stay roughly in the center, meaning it's giving you voltage, but it's not really a high or a really low load. The temp gauge actually does work, which is awesome. The A right there in normal is about 185 when the thermostat opens, and I've already bled the system. I kind of let it get too hot and boil out a little bit. So my mistake, but I at least know the 85 is roughly around the A there, so I can check that when I drive it. All right, so you can see the oil gauge. It's melted somewhere along the way, so that does not work. But I know there's oil in there, and I know it keeps oil pressure. And then the fuel gauge does work, but it's not calibrated right. The resistance in it is wrong. So when I'm at about 1/3 of a tank, I think I am, roughly about 4 gallons, it goes up to somewhere around half there. So I think with a little more calibration of myself, knowing that the fuel tank reads about a 1/4 tank high is doable, just to know that I'm not going to run out of gas. All right, so what I have left is to bleed the brakes. So I've obviously got the car lifted up. I have the wheels and tires out of the way. I need to put the pinion snubber on there, or the pinion bump stop for the rear end. That just needs to mount in the body. The 80 did not have it, so I kept the piece off the 92. I just need to drill the holes, put in a couple rib nuts, bolt that in, that's done. Fluid in the brakes, bleed those, so I actually have brakes, which is good. The clutch feels good. It's brand new, so I've got to be careful driving it and that. Put about 500 miles on before I try to beat on it a little bit, try to break it in right. And then you notice the dash plastic down here is probably one of the last things. And now I'm going to drive around probably for a while without dash plastic at all. Probably no vent tubes, anything like that. No vents, no AC, no heat, anything. Just leave it all kind of rough on the inside and just make sure it all really works before I try to clean it up and make it all pretty. There is no radio in this car, even though I have rear speakers. I don't have any other speakers. I don't have a radio, so at this point, all I'm going to listen to is some MagnaFlow Super 40 mufflers, and they're kind of rusty, so it gives it a little bit of extra noise, and just going to have to enjoy it. Enjoy the sound of it. Okay, so with the car ready to go buttoned up, I did mention that I need to get registration done, so that is done. I did that. It is legal. It has license plates. Now, I did want to put on a custom WideFox license plate on here. I ended up looking at those, and it was going to be over $600 for a custom plate. And I got to tell you, it was already kind of expensive to get new plates plus a registration in that. It was over $100. And put an extra $500 into just to have vanity plates really just didn't seem like a good value for my money. So I'm going to pass on that, unfortunately. Otherwise, man, I really wish I could have done some WideFox plates. That would have been really cool. Let's see, I got insurance on the car, so that was good. I went through Hagerty. Really pretty reasonable, honestly. In order to do that, I needed to put a value on the car. And if you watch the 92, you know that I had tons of documentation and receipts. And I was able to get good value for the 92. Now, Hagerty wants to know what the evaluation is. Otherwise, they're going to value the car at what the Blue Book says. So, you know what the Blue Book on a 1980 four-cylinder Ford Mustang is? It's not a lot. So, in order to do that, I had to go through all the receipts. Now, I have kept that from the 92, knowing that I was eventually going to have to put a value on this car. I have kept literally every receipt that I have spent on. Now, I always like to know, or I always wish I knew, how much a car really costs. You see cars, you see people put money into them, and in my mind, I always think, I wonder how much that costs. How much, if I were to go write a check, how much would that cost? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a video together for you guys. And I'm going to outline what has gone into the WideFox to this point. It's not done. Obviously, it's not wrapped. Interior is not there. Really, the biggest piece of that missing is carpet. I have seats. I have everything else. Just need some carpet at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together a video detailing kind of how much everything costs to go into this. And I'll give you a total value, which is what basically the street value is minus labor, because that's a really hard one to talk about. So I'm going to do that, and you guys, I'll release it out next week, so you guys will have a couple days, and you guys can figure out, or if you want to know, you can watch it and say, really, that's how much it really cost? We'll see if you guys have a good idea of how much it costs, because I'll tell you, until I added up the receipts, man, I was way off on the value of this thing. I've been building it for 27 months, and I knew that some of the big stuff I knew what it cost, but until I put it down on paper of every last little thing I've spent, I had no idea the value of it, and it was kind of shocking to me. So I'll put that together. I'll release it out next week. You guys can make some guesses, and then I'll tell you what the real value is, and you guys can tell me if you believe it or not. So it being Friday, I'm going to go again, save this, get it uploaded, so you'll see it tomorrow morning, obviously, on Saturday morning, and I'm going to be on the road. So let me know. It fires. Oh man, firing up that car is so awesome. I've done it a couple times throughout the week, and just literally just walking in, turning the key, and hearing the ECM click on, and it going, da-da-da-da-da, wow! My face just lights up, as you can imagine. So I got 2 more days. I'm going to try to drive this Sunday. Obviously, if you guys want to see some footage or anything else, watch Instagram. Probably put it on Facebook. And then next Saturday, you guys will get some probably in-car driving. I'll probably get my GoPro together and do a little bit of demo of a drive, putting a few miles on, just kind of feeling everything out. You guys need to know anything on the car, let me know. Otherwise, the next 2 weeks is going to be fast and furious, because next Saturday I'm going to take it to a show. That's my goal. So I'm going to drive it Sunday, refine anything else I need, get this thing ready to go to be able to drive it 25 miles or wherever the show is away. Sit out there, enjoy all the onlookers, and just sit back and enjoy a day of just letting everybody see what they think of this thing. So that's it from Basin Motorsports this time. Guys, thank you for watching. I so appreciate you guys spending your time with me, giving me the time, enjoying this build. I love when you guys tell me you like it, and it's even good things when you tell me it's hideous, because, well, it is hideous. Anyway, we'll see you next time.